The multiple bounce roll, or the buzz roll, is a rudiment that requires the percussionist to play multiple bounces with one stroke. Unlike the single stroke roll, where we have alternating full strokes, the multiple bounce roll requires multiple strokes out of every attack. So you've probably heard this rudiment before, and I just want to emphasize its importance. Just like any trumpeter or any brass player or woodwind player has to play a long tone on their instrument, this is the percussionist sort of long tone. So we need to think of it with that sort of importance. It should be smooth and connected as much as possible. In order to do that, we have to start from bare bones. We have to start with the multiple bounce just in general. So I want you to take your stick and take your practice pad. If you have a snare drum, this is going to work a lot better on a snare drum, and I highly recommend that you play especially buzz rolls on snare drums so you can hear the individual attacks. But if you have a practice pad like me, that's fine. Take your stick, place it above the snare drum, and then just kind of let it bounce like this. Listen to how when you release the stick, it's kind of like when a basketball bounces across the floor and eventually it gets to that point where it's about to touch the ground, and then maybe someone picks it up and then it touches the ground completely. So let it bounce all the way. But we want to start thinking about what we don't like about this, right? It's really inconsistent. I don't really like the very beginning part where it goes ba, 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 ba. It's really inconsistent. I don't really want that in my roll, right? So I'm going to cut that out. The other part I don't really like is when the stick comes to a complete stop, because you don't really want to have a lack of motion, right? You want the stick to continue moving. So I took that out. And now I have my favorite part of that whole movement isolated. So I want you to try and do that. Do that with your right hand and then do that with your left hand. The idea is that you want your right and your left hand to sound exactly the same. Otherwise, you'll have something like... We don't want that, okay? Make sure you isolate your favorite part of that bounce. And then you can continue to the next part. So this is a pretty simple exercise. It is just 4 quarter notes regular, followed by 4 quarter notes buzzed. And you can practice this at about 60 beats per minute. And really try and work on making the right and the left sound consistent. So this can be alternating, or it could be all rights, all lefts. Today we're going to play alternating so that we can really hear the difference between our right and our left hand. So this is about 60 beats per minute. Right, buzz, 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 left, right, left. Make them sound the same. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Maybe tighten it up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tight, 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 tight. Now, whatever you do, try and make them sound the same. That is the goal of this. And once you feel pretty good about that, you could speed it up to maybe like 100 beats per minute. See if you're comfortable with that. So right, left, right, left, buzz, 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 right, buzz, 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 buzz. Cool. When you're comfortable with that, we can do this next exercise, which has 8th notes. It should be 4 8th notes followed by a half note, and then 4 8th notes buzzed followed by another half note. And it sounds something like this. Buzz, 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 buzz. Alternating, so left, right, left, right. Buzz, 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 buzz. Okay, and then when you want to make it even more complex, you can throw some triplets in there, which sounds like this. So those are, 3 ways that you can practice your buzz rolls, try and get them sounding clear and consistent. Like I said, this is a really important part of your playing. You want it to sound consistent and clear, just like a long tone on any other instrument. So take a look at those 3 exercises. If that last part was confusing, if you're like, I don't know how to play a triplet, back it up to the beginning of the video and try just work on isolating your favorite part of that roll. We don't really want, that's really unclear. Try and get your favorite part and bring them together.